2024, the Major John Leroy Haynes Florida Veterans History Program was created to collect and preserve the stories and experiences of Florida's veterans and to recognize the state of Florida's military contribution throughout our nation's history. Through recorded interviews, the Florida Veterans History Program Oral History Collection acts as a living archive of first-hand accounts to capture the details of military service and the voices, memories, and reflections of the Floridians who served. The Major John Leroy Haynes Florida Veterans History Program is operated by the Department of State, Division of Arts and Culture's Florida Folklife Program. Together, we are proud to ensure that Florida's military history is preserved, honored, and shared. My name is Julian Duncan with the Florida Department of State, Division of Arts and Culture, Florida Folklife Program. Today is September 2nd, 2025. Time is 1:30 p.m. and I'm interviewing Daryl Howard in Tallahassee, Florida. This interview is being conducted for the Major John Leroy Haynes Florida Veterans History Program and will be submitted to the State Archives of Florida as well as the Library of Congress Veterans History Project. Good afternoon, Mr. Howard.
Good afternoon, sir.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, sir. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you here. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Could you begin this interview by telling me a little bit about your life before you joined the Army, you growing up, and just kind of how you were as a child, your family?
Okay. Again, thank you for the opportunity to have this interview. I grew up in a small town of Chattahoochee, Florida. I grew up in a single-parent home. My mother raised myself, my sister, Brenda, and my brother, James, who was the oldest, and my sister was the youngest. We attended an elementary school in Chattahoochee during the days before integration was effective in the Chattahoochee area. It's called the Southside Elementary School, and so there we attended school up until as I can remember, up until I got into 5th grade, and the integration took place around, I would say, somewhere in the mid-70s, and we integrated into the high school. Once you've completed 5th grade, you can go into the 6th grade. So the 6th grade, when I started my sixth grade year, I was attending Chattahoochee High School, where, as I said, the school became integrated. So we attended the Chattahoochee High School up until probably around, don't remember the exact year, but up until I got past the 10th grade. And after the 10th grade, my mother married, moved over to the next county over, which was Jackson County, and where she had gotten married, and that caused a lot of changes when mom get married now. And so we went to Chattahoochee, we went to Sneed's, Florida, and there we attended Sneed's High School for the remaining of my high school years. And so during those high school years, I went through the 10th, 11th, and the 12th grade of my high school years, graduated in 1978. But my childhood was a good childhood. My mother worked hard. My mother she was employed with the Florida with the Florida State Hospital as a UTR specialist. It's called a unit treatment specialist for mental health patients there at the hospital. And she worked hard. When we were able in our younger days to help with finances, back in those days they had what they call tobacco. So tobacco farms were prevalent in those days, and we went out during the summer. We didn't have summers like most of the kids have now, go to Disney World and so forth. We had to go to the farm and work and work in tobacco fields. That brought in additional income because it was me, my brother and sister. We were all out on the farm working to bring in additional income, and so it helped my mom a great deal to make to meet her financial obligations and keep roof over our head and clothes on our backs and food on the table. So, especially me and my brother. I can't remember my sister doing a whole lot of that, but my brother and I was kind of becoming the men of the house as early as 10 years old. And my childhood also consists of getting other jobs. There was a lady there in Chattahoochee, I never will forget her. Her name was Miss Odile Lewis. She had her own grocery store. She gave me my own first job there at the age of 10. And my job was to sell peanuts. And I was called by the patient, and I was to take those peanuts, take them over to the Florida State Hospital and sell those peanuts to not inmates, but the patients there. And when I got paid 3 cents she paid me 3 cents for every bag of peanuts that I would sell. And like I said, I was around the age of 12, 13 years old, and I made a pretty good income there, even at selling 3 cents, earning 3 cents per bag. So the lady was a remarkable woman, Miss Odile. She was, taught me financial responsibilities, taught me honesty, and because I had to bring back the total amount of money that I earned. And she could tell whether the money was right. So, so she paid me right. I made sure she got her share. And it was a good business arrangement between I and Miss Odile. And she always wanted me to save money, didn't want me to spend everything. So I learned that from her. She's passed away now, but she owned the first grocery store owned by Black woman at that time in the Chattahoochee area. There was only two others who had grocery stores who were Black, but up in the main city limits of Chattahoochee, she was the only one, and she was the first in that particular area, which I call the city, in the city district. That's what I called it. But her influence on my life was tremendous, and may God bless her soul. And many things she taught me. Selling peanuts is still in me today. So they gave me a name at the hospital where I sold those peanuts, Peanut Boy. So, but those were my fun years as a boy. And she and my Uncle Roosevelt Griffin, my mom's brother, bought me a bicycle for Christmas, and she put the needed baskets on the bicycle in order for me to carry the peanuts to the hospital to sell them. So it was an awesome experience as growing up, learning responsibilities and things of that nature.
And you mentioned that you graduated high school in 1978. I believe that's the same year you went into the Army.
Yes, sir.
When did you start thinking about military service? Had that been something you knew you wanted throughout childhood? Was that something you kind of found your way into more recently? When did that come up for you?
It definitely was not something on my agenda when it came down to me going into the military. It was something that came up later. I always thought that I wanted to be a carpenter when I was growing up. I took it from Christ, a carpenter, and I wanted to learn to build things. But I never did pursue that, so that idea kind of, fell off as I got older. And I also saw the difficulties then for African Americans to really gain employment coming out of high school if they didn't choose college. I wasn't that good academically. I wasn't a book person, and so I wasn't really interested in going to college because I was just really looking forward to the day I didn't have to go to public school. So I just wanted to get those years behind me. And I think it was when I considered that my family have a number of veterans, my father was a veteran. Um, I have uncles that were veterans. My mom's brothers were veterans. She have several. So I have several uncles who were veterans. Um, I known a lot of friends who get drafted on the Vietnam conflict, as they called it at one time. But even that, my immediate high school friends who were maybe a year or two older than I was, went into the military. And so when I see them come home and wearing the uniforms and the honor and the excitement to see them with good income, number one, and sometimes they drove their new cars back, and sometimes they brought back a new car and a wife. So I said, it can't be too bad, you know what I'm saying? So I considered that as an option, because when I got out of high school, I knew that it was, prior to my getting out of high school, I was already looking for employment, and I saw how it was going to be difficult. So I says, well, to further develop myself as a man, I said maybe the military is a good place to start to develop my image as a man. So I decided that this is the thing to do. Go ahead and join the military. So after collaborating with several of my friends who did, my former brother-in-law, matter of fact, joined the military. His name is Willis Raines. He joined the military along with a few of his brothers. And so conversating with them, and then I failed to conversate with my uncle because my uncle was very close to me, but I don't even know why I didn't confer with him. But I do believe if I had, I would have gone into the Air Force. My uncle talked to me about that later. He said, now, if I had known you was going into the Army, I would have changed your mind. And I said, yeah, you probably would have. But I chose the Army because it was, what most of my friends were going into. Very few of them went into the Navy. One of them went into the Navy, but I didn't like water. And I didn't like the idea of throwing, of the boat sinking. So, and I wasn't a swimmer at the time. And so I just chose to know I better stay on dry land. So I thought the Marines might have been a little too tough, a little bit more programmed to kill whatever is in front of them. So I didn't want to be a robot. So so I said the Army might be the best place. So I chose. After collaborating with my friends to join the Army in 1978. Actually, it was the same year that I graduated from high school.
You said a couple of things that struck me. You said you wanted something that would develop you, that would help you become a man. And I feel like, I'm just curious about, your initial experience in basic training, and then kind of coming to the end of that process, seeing yourself, you've earned the title soldier, you've earned the right to wear the uniform. And so how did that feel, going through that process and then coming out on the other side of it with that initial goal in mind?
Well, I won't say that I was completely undisciplined. As a young man. I didn't get in trouble when I was in high school. None of my school years was neither time did I portray a troubled youth. So I was very disciplined, but developing a responsible lifestyle as a man. I thought that going into the Army, it would enhance that, even though I didn't really know exactly what that would look like. Not having a man figure in my home, so I didn't know what picture was I trying to develop for myself. But going in, joining the Army in '78, my first duty station was in Fort Bliss, Texas. So one of the things that I didn't mention is that during my 16th year, during the time I was 16 years old, I gave my life to God, and I began to live for a godly life. And that was the key. I believe that was part of my development as a man when it comes down to from a moral standpoint. I needed a moral foundation to my life, no matter where I went. So I think I had a little bit more than I give myself credit for before I went into the military. But having a faith in God enhanced my life once I got into the military, because there were many challenges as a young man. Getting off the bus there in Fort Bliss, Texas, being streamed at by the drill sergeants, going through that drill, it really didn't faze me. I learned never to take what people say to go into my heart. Like water on a duck's back. Just let it rub on off, and never took anything personal, because I knew it was a part of the training. So it was just more interesting than it was difficult. Just trying to use my faith and prayer to get me through the training, the physical training, and the stress of being away from home, and learning how to adapt as a man away from your place of comfort, around your mom, who's cooking for you every day and taking care of you, and around the church, where you was always held accountable. At the same time, you had the watchful eye of your church and your community looking out for you. So now this was my first time away from home. It was a challenge to meet people from all over the world. Growing up was just beginning, because I began to interact with people and cultures, people with cultural differences and cultural background. This was a part of my growing up experience. Not only because we have more or less white and black here in America, and which we had access to. We had to get used to those two cultures, but then you begin to see there were more cultures outside of the white or the black cultures. And you meet people from Mexico, Mexicans that was in Puerto Rico in particular, and people from France, people from I don't know, Somalia, places around the world who had become citizens of America, and they were also in the military. So it was a part of my growing development as a man to see the commonalities that we as humans share. So, and then getting my first real big check, and learning how to budget that and handle that. Not to be wasteful was a challenge. I didn't do too well most of the time with that, but having my own money and control of my own money was a growing challenge for me. Yeah. I hope I answered the question.
Yeah, no, it's a great answer.
Yes.
It's a great answer. Can you think of any standout moments from your training experience? Anything that was particularly challenging or particularly funny, or any kind of standout moments from basic training that stick with you?
Well, one of my experiences in basic training required us to stand inspections, and I had this one particular experience that I kind of funny, and then it wasn't so funny at the time, but now when I think about it, it was. We had Class A inspection. We had to dress in our Class A uniforms, and so once we were ready for the inspection, we would have to stand beside our bunks with our lockers open, with all our personal items on display, and bed had to be properly made, and we had to be at attention until this sergeant comes in, and or the inspector drill sergeant come in. And so I had been very tired and very, had a long night preparing, cleaning up the barracks, and I just got sleepy. And I got sleepy in a way that I never just remember being that tired. So I hinted to one of the soldiers that I'm tired. I'm fitting to go to sleep. I'm fitting to sit down. And I did just that. And they couldn't believe what I was doing. I sat on the floor with my Class A uniform on. And soldiers was lined up to my left and right, and soldiers was lined up in front of me on the other opposite side of the hallway. And here was I, this one soldier just sitting on the floor, asleep. And just as soon as I sit down, I fell asleep. And so I had soldiers warn me, you better not be in that position. The drill sergeant catches you, they hate it for the rest of it, So anyway, I didn't know what happened during the inspection, actually, because I was asleep. So when I woke up, the soldiers was going about their business. They were just cleaning up. They had undressed, taking their Class A uniforms off and going back to business as usual. There was it was downtime for everyone. And so I asked one of what happened? He says, man, we don't even believe we saw what we saw. He said the drill sergeant walked in, looked down at you, put his face near your face, and you didn't move. And he just stepped across you and kept on conducting the inspection and didn't say a word to you. And he kept going. And it says, so that was it. And so by the time that explanation came, I could hear this voice, Private Howard, coming out of one of the offices. I don't know how you say it. Private Howard, front and center. So that meant I need to get into his office and stand at attention. So I was there in his office, still in my Class A uniform. I didn't know what to do. So I stood in there, and it says, stand at ease. He said, Private Howard, are you tired? Yes, Drill Sergeant. Well, so I don't remember all what he said after that, but in the barracks, we all slept in what is called an open bay, bunk on top of each other. He gave me a key. He says, your room is on the far end. Congratulations, you're the squad leader for squad number 3. It was the strangest thing, squad leader. So that's how I was rewarded, discipline. I didn't know whether to take that as a compliment or what was awaiting me. So what happened, I went to that room that he told me, and it was a bunk in the room, and it was complete privacy. For each squad, we had 4 squads in a platoon, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, 4th squad. I was the 3rd squad. I was the squad leader for the 3rd squad all of a sudden. So I don't know. All I can remember is that was in a way funny, but it wasn't fun at the time. But it turned out to my advantage, because I ended up wearing this little sergeant's thing on my arm, and so got a lot of respect from the soldiers. And things of that nature. So that was my really my first what I would call a humorous moment, and when I became squad leader, and as I became a squad leader.
And punished you with a responsibility.
Yeah, yes, throw some responsibility on me, so I guess I'd never be caught sleep again. I guess that was.
I can see the logic. I think I can see the logic there.
Yes, sir.
So you go on to, and was it Fort Campbell is your first station after this?
Yes, after my basic training there and AIT, I went to Fort Campbell, Kentucky, there, Killeen, Texas, the home of the 101st Airborne Division. So I now was entering into my first assignment under my MOS, my military occupational specialty, 16 Romeo 10. So there in Fort Campbell, Kentucky, my first assignment, and it was a marvelous thing that started happening there. You know how you get used to one place and think it's going to be difficult to get familiar with another area. Well, I'd never been to Kentucky in my life. Never been in, being in the Army as a whole, I had never been out of the state of Florida. But maybe once visiting North Carolina when my uncle was there in the military, Fort Bragg. But yeah, Fort Campbell, Kentucky was where I accepted God's calling into the ministry. My spiritual life was really beginning to launch out, and one of the things they told us to be disciples from back home, and I tried to apply my biblical and spiritual discipline there. Now we are in my first active duty station, and so it really worked really well. Got really involved in the on the military base there in Fort Campbell, and what's rememberable most would be my command saw my interest in spirituality and the Bible and things of that nature. They questioned whether I should have joined the Army because I used to hold so many Bible studies. And they kind of wondered whether I was more interested in Bible study and ministry than being a soldier. So what the question is, are you sure you want to be an enlisted soldier? I didn't know what they was really asking. So they made it clear. They says, well, what we're really asking you, do you think you should have become a chaplain? You always seem to be the motivator in the unit, trying to inspire soldiers when they're facing challenges, and you're the same age they are, facing the same challenges. So, you know, I told them I hadn't thought about it. And at the time, I grew up in a religion that did not stress education as much as they do now. And I remember they used to have a little phrase they used to use in religion that says, you don't need a PhD, you need a GD, a God degree, HG, or call it a Holy Ghost degree. You didn't need a PhD degree. So I think that was a negative impact of my religious influence, escaping from reality about the reality. There are some doors that education only opens for you. Your spiritual background may help in your character, but it doesn't open doors. So if I had understood that, I probably had gone to school and became a chaplain, because what eventually happened through this process, they assigned me to the chaplain, and I ended up becoming a chaplain's assistant. And even though I had a 16 Romeo MOS, which dealt with Vulcan, they allowed me to work in my first specialty. They sent me to a specialty school, the specialty school, to gain that chaplain's activity specialist MOS as my secondary. And so most of my time there in Fort Campbell, I worked as a chaplain's activity specialist that gave me a lot of access to chaplains and things of that nature. And so one of the things I enjoyed doing when we go to training is they help encourage soldiers, inspire soldiers in so many ways, create religious activities that will make soldiers to inspire them during difficult times, even when they had difficult problems themselves, family issues or disconnection from family issues or death in their families. Most of the soldiers will confer with me. And then if I thought that they need to see the chaplain for other mental health issues that they may need, I would do that. But being that I was assigned to the chaplain, I had to definitely, I had to refer them to the chaplain most of the time. But it was a good experience there in Fort Campbell.
So a couple different directions I want to go from that. It's really interesting. I'm curious what prior to attaining that secondary MOS, what your day-to-day looked like as a 16 Romeo. And then I'm curious about how long in your career until you acquired the secondary MOS. And then after you acquired the secondary MOS, were you really involved with 16 Romeo Vulcan work at all, or was it pretty much primarily being the chaplain's assistant?
Yes, sir. I did. I had, prior to being assigned to the chaplain, my job was involved with me a training with the Vulcan. The Vulcan is a six. I can't remember the numbers on it, but it was a Gatling gun mounted on an APC carrier. The Vulcan was outlawed to be used against ground troops, but it was against low-flying aircraft and things of that nature, or armored tanks and things of that nature. But yes, I had some quite a bit of training as a 16 Romeo. I actually was a senior gunner prior to my going over into the chaplain section. So I was actually became a squad leader there in Fort Hood, not Fort Hood, but Fort Campbell. I became a squad leader of my squad. I got up to the rank, I think, around, I can't remember what I became. I was E3 maybe, private first class, and I ended up being a squad leader there. And so it was very challenging, you know.
It's a lot of responsibility for POC.
Yeah, you had about about four people that manned the gunner. You had a senior gunner, which was me. Then you had a driver. Then you had the other crew people that was a part of that particular vehicle. We were responsible for the day-to-day maintenance of that vehicle, making sure it was clean, making sure it was all in service. We had to do various inspections daily, sometimes 2 to 3 inspections of that vehicle, making sure that everything was working properly, everything from the wheels and I forgot that, and the tracks that the wheels were on. It took a lot of physical work to get under there and jack it up and make sure that it had the right pressure and on those shock absorbers and just the everyday training was quite a bit. I did have one incident in which we was on an operation which I was injured on a runaway of Vulcan. Somehow the engine, some kind of way the driver, I won't say the driver lost control of the vehicle, but they weren't able to stop the vehicle during one of the training exercises. And so as the commander of that vehicle, I was the senior gunner, and I had to try to communicate with the driver of the vehicle, and we had to try to get him to stop it. And we had one choice. Got to the point we was communicating with other authorities, trying to figure out how to get the vehicle to stop. and we had to force the vehicle into some tree to get it to stop. We was on a forest exercise, and so, but the thing was, I don't remember what happened to the other soldiers really, because I was asked to jump off the vehicle, to jump out of it, and so I don't know whether the other soldiers jumped out. I just remember the part where I had to come out of the vehicle through the back door, and so I had to adjust myself. It was bumpy. It was a bumpy ride. The vehicle was made of complete steel, so you had to be careful. So, you bump your head, and I probably did. So I opened the back door of the vehicle, and I could see what we would call in the military ambulances coming behind us and trying to see can they catch up with it, or seeing if somebody gets hurt. They knew it was supposed to be a real tragic situation, so they were already there. And so I jumped from the vehicle is all I remember. When I jumped from the vehicle, I don't remember anything else. So somewhere down the line, when I became conscious again, I was sitting on next to a Jeep with my back against the tire, and my head was wrapped up, and that was it. And I don't remember anything else. Wow. And so, yeah, so that was one of the challenges. That was one of my experiences with Vulcan there in Fort Campbell.
The other thing that really stands out to me is you mentioned your leadership kind of pulling you aside and mentoring you, and noticing that you had been doing this ministry on top of your duties as 16 Romeo, and guiding you into that chaplain position. It sounded, or that chaplain's assistant position. It sounds like you had pretty good leadership at Fort Campbell.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I enjoyed being a lead. Enjoyed. Sometimes the soldiers would say that you're a young man in a young body, but with like an old man in a young body. I was told by many that you sound like my grandfather, but you're 20. You was 21 something, very 20 years old maybe. They couldn't believe that I could. I just think the leadership part of me was was developed spiritually, and they had so many questions. So my spiritual maturity was uncommon for a young man that young and inside of the military, because in the military there was drugs, opportunity to be promiscuous with the women there. And they saw a dedicated and a focused man. And they couldn't, I didn't realize how much I had working for me until I could see it. And I saw how fragile many young men were at that age. And so I used that to my benefit, to step into the place of lead and leadership in most cases. So sort of like a place where I was supposed to be. Being able to talk to soldiers about wearing the uniform, how to wear the uniform to be the best representation of yourself. I took a lot of pride in my shoes, in my uniform, the neatness of it, being on time, being where you're supposed to be, and things of that nature. So I never had to be disciplined in those areas. So therefore, I as a squad leader, I gave them examples of what it means to be, accountable about my own life, my life being an example. I would share with them many times. I would not tell you to do what I wouldn't do. If I'm going to require you to check the oil on the vehicles, I check the oil on the vehicles. If I require you to wear a uniform that is neat and pressed, I'm going to be neat and pressed. If I require you to be in formation on time, I'm going to be on time. In order to get the proper rest at night, I'm going to bed on time so I can get up on time. uh, early morning, 3 o'clock, sometime in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning. You had to be vested because you don't know how early your morning is going to start. And sometimes it started the same every morning. Sometimes we had surprise wake-ups. We had to be disciplined enough to do that and to remind us. So the temptations, one of the biggest temptations or challenges for young men was drugs. I didn't know very much about drugs at the time. I never really saw any illegal drugs but once, and that was in the military. And what we call peer pressure. We faced that in the military. And so the pressure of using drugs was my first. I created some philosophies of my own, like reverse peer pressure, and I decided that I would not be under pressure by my peers to do something that I've already decided this is not the path for me. Illegal drugs or engaging in prostitutes or either hiring a prostitute. That's just something that I was not going to do. I made a decision that that was not going to happen. So whenever I was challenged on the issue, say, you never tried this before? You know, I remember we had an actual situation where people were selling some marijuana on in the base, came right into the barracks to sell drugs, to sell these things to the soldiers. And they said, you mean you're 20 and you never tried this? I said, you mean you're 20 and you're trying it already? So I just reversed the pressure applied to me, and I thought that of doing so, and then using my Christian life or the biblical foundation I had as a basis for not doing it. Now I got to continue this. I realized that if I start a thing, if I say a thing, I'm committed to that. So that's what the soldiers will expect of me, and they hold, and that caused me to be held at a higher level of responsibility. So when I carried myself or I spoke in a way as a leader, there was more responsibility on me to maintain that. I knew that soldiers would watch me after hours. Mm-hmm. You know, what would I do to validate me as what I claimed to be? If I said I believed in God and I believed in that and I practiced that, I believed that it was important that now I demonstrate it. So, so being a leader in what you say, believing in what you say, not just say it and don't believe it, being a pattern of what that is, even as a soldier, how you can apply your faith to being a soldier and being a citizen or being a human being as a man. So that was one of the enjoyable things for me, and I enjoyed it because I think before I gave my life to God, I really didn't have a sense of belonging, identity, if you will. I believe that gave me real identity in the military, and especially since after I accepted God's calling into the ministry, I thought it was important to use that faith and my biblical knowledge is to be a good example even in the uniform as it was, as an example out of uniform. Because there are times when you wear the uniform and there are times when you're off and you're not in the uniform, but you're still a soldier. So, yeah, so my leadership skills, I believe, were more or less enhanced by my spiritual life and my sincerity towards it.
Can you talk a little bit about your time in South Korea?
Yes, South Korea from 1980 to 1981 probably was the best year of my entire military experience. I didn't want to go first of all. I heard all the good things about Germany and Europe, but I didn't hear much about South Korea, being that it was like about 50 years behind and then advancement, economic, or a very poor country. But when I went there, I was stationed in very, very poor area. I was located maybe 4 or 5 miles of what they call the DMZ, the militarized zone. South Korea is divided into two, North and the South, and we were allies of South Korea. And so there now, I had to jump back into my MOS duties. I was not a chaplain assistant there in South Korea, but I had an amazing experience there working in the motor pool in South Korea, and we worked in the motor pool every day. Our job was to make sure our vehicles, I was assigned a Jeep, and we was assigned our own Vulcan that was mounted on the APC. We had to maintain it every day. It was very hot in South Korea. The weather was extremely hot in the summer. We went there on my birthday. I left the United States February of 1980. And so by the time we got to Korea, since we were 24 hours behind, they are 24 hours behind us, our time. So when I got to Korea, it was my birthday again. It was my birthday just started. So it was the longest birthday celebration ever. So, but my experience there was with a family there. It was an amazing family I will never in my life forget. Started with the old lady, looked about 80-something years old. She used to bring all of her items and carry it on her head, you know, and balancing everything on her head. And I couldn't see how she did that, but she was an old lady. Yeah. And she would bring all of those items, like drinks and chips and all of this, but she had a 7-year-old little girl with her. So I decided one day that I would purchase some items from them. And I had gotten very hot that day. And for some reason, you know, no matter, it was long lines waiting to get up to purchase whatever you want, snacks or, and the little girl would not allow me to pay. And I couldn't understand what was being said because she said it in the Korean language. I didn't know what she was saying. All I know, she grabbed up to her grandmom's dress. I'm assuming that's grandmama. And she says, and grandmama tries to explain to me what the little girl is doing. And she says, she points to the little girl, say, him say, you no pay. Now, the first thing I thought, she's saying the little girl was accusing me of not paying for what I wanted. She says, I said, I would pay. She said, no. Him say, because the old lady couldn't say she say, she say him say, you no pay, you know, no pay, no, you no pay. So she gave me the items and say, bye-bye. And so I said, wow. So that happened again. And the soldiers said, do you know these people? I said, no, I don't know them. So, you know, they couldn't understand why they wouldn't charge me. Yeah. So there was a girl that spoke good English there in the village called Sunjari, South Korea. We retrieved her. So we need your help. Brought her, asked her to come to the motor pool and said, we need you to help to interpret something. So we asked the little girl, ask this little girl, why won't she charge me? And the little girl tells her why. And then the interpretations was that the little girl said that she could tell that you were a man of God, that you were called to preach.
How do you think she knew that?
I don't know. It was a mystery. She says we could tell. She says, and says she could tell that because she says that, I don't know what she said. The spirit told her that, and that she was wanted to be nice to me because of that, and that she didn't ever want me to pay. And I was interested. So what it led to, I would talk to the little girl every day, and we would try to break down what we were carrying on. And so eventually the lady came out and interpreted something. She said she wants to invite you to her home. So then there was a lot of, you know, questions about how close you could get to a Korean national because of exploitation. About that, you know, it's possible that you could be exploited by the Korean national. But I felt comfortable with this family. and started going to their home. They made me feel like I had a home away from home. And mysteriously, I learned how to know what they were saying, even though I couldn't repeat it. And there were just certain things that we got used to, being able to say things like, what was that? Either way, I mean, come here. That would have meant to me. I don't know whether that's the right word or some other expression like hungry, eat, moga, or some other expression. We got to got through a few things, and so that family became an amazing family to me, and they allowed me to carry it. So I got introduced to the other family, which was the old lady, her daughter, who was a mother of 3 little girls. And the 3 little girls, I never forget their names: Park Young Mi, Park Young Suk, Park Young I, Young Ya. So Park Young Mi was Park Young Mi was 10, Park Young Suk was 7, and Park Young AI was 5. So these were 3 beautiful little kids. Their names will never be erased from my memory. So they had a mother, and they also had a father. He was a Korean soldier. So when they invited me into their home, we couldn't walk into the home with shoes on. We had to sit with our legs folded. Couldn't walk in, had to crawl in. It was a hooch, as they call it. It was probably about no bigger than this room that we were in. It certainly wasn't bigger than the room that we were in. I don't think so. And we watched television. We would eat there, and they had another little room space where they slept. So I was always welcome to sharing their meals, and they fixed meals for me often. And at one time, I was allowed to carry the 2 of the oldest kids to South Korea. They gave me a tour, actually, on a Korean bus. So you can imagine this now. So I got a friend to go with me, one of the soldiers, a good friend of mine. He became a good friend of the family as well. And we carried these 2 girls. They carried us on a Korean bus from Sanjuri, South Korea to Seoul, Korea, which is the capital of Korea. It was one of my best experiences, being with 2 little, can imagine, African American male, with these 2 little Korean kids who did all the talking for us, and we trusted them. In all aspects, the little girl that was 10 knew how to get around and how to get into Seoul, and she was very mature to be 10 years old. So we bought them some items there in Korea for school. We knew their school year would require them to have certain things, so we kind of spoiled them up a little bit. I enjoyed every bit of it. This first feeling I had of being a father, and the idea that I would love to get married one day and have me some kids. That's what I learned from that. Because I do want to be a dad, because I love this, So that was one of my great experiences in coming back from South Korea. Coming back from Seoul, being able to talk a little bit about that and share it with my soldier friends about what it was like with that family. Then there was so much happened there. Even there was a time when the old lady got very ill, and I fell in love with the people, and they took a photograph of me and put it on the wall, this huge photograph of me, and they wanted to keep it. They said they will always have it, and they had it. They put it on their wall, and so
Wow.
The lady got ill, and they was gonna let her die on the porch, and I didn't want that to happen. So, make a long story short, we tried to bust through that. We got her to the doctor on a cab, and again, I was on the spotlight here. This black African American guy with a Korean woman in a cab, getting out of the cab, and they waited on the woman and took her in and seen about her, and I waited in the lobby. And, a lot of curious people walking around looking at me. The Koreans are very short compared to my height. I was pretty tall compared to what they had. So, and a soldier, I was out of uniform, but they knew what I was. And anyway, the woman walked back. I had to carry her in my arms when we went into the cab. But then coming back, she walked back. She was dehydrated, and she was doing fine after we came back. And one of the things that was very disappointing, I'm gonna close on this one. That was disappointing was that the Koreans dressed very prestigious, have prestigious uniforms, clothing, very, very beautiful, very colorful. And the lady, the old woman, wanted to make sure that she could give me one of those nice uniforms before I left the country. And she wasn't able to, because that's when I learned that racism existed there. I didn't know it was, but she said they would not, the lady wouldn't fix it, prepare the uniform or get it made, because she realized she was getting it made for an African American.
Wow.
And she refused to do it. And so the lady's heart was broken, but I had to leave. It was the day before I had to leave. So I left and went to Seoul, the process out of Korea. And now between surgery and Seoul, it's probably about an hour drive or so, maybe more. But we was in the briefing room getting ready to leave. And all of the soldiers that were leaving was probably up in the hundreds of soldiers getting ready to leave at the time. And the commander asked the question, says, "Is there a Specialist Howard here?" I was a specialist at the time. I was scared. I didn't know what he wanted. And looked behind me, and he says, "Mr. Howard, Special Howard, you got a guest." Looked behind me, and there was this old lady had found a way to Seoul with this outfit on a hanger, and she just held it up like this.
Wow.
So they had me go put on the uniform, put it on, and everybody see me with it on, and they just applauded. And so that was the end, and that was the end of my experience there with her. And she wouldn't even let me. I tried to say goodbye. She just said, "Shh," and she just turned her head like that, and that was the last time I seen or heard from them.
Oh, so you didn't stay in touch with them?
We tried.
Yeah.
We tried. The mail was difficult to, we thought we had it all together, but I wrote them, but I never heard from them. And I don't know whether they were able to do that. I don't know whether the mail was interfered with or whatever, but I don't know if they got the letters that I sent them. But I definitely didn't hear from them.
Well, I'm glad you told that story. I'm glad that we get to hear about it, because it sounds like a really meaningful relationship that you were able to develop.
It was. It showed me the power of love, that when words can't say enough, when words are not clear, it shows me the universalism of love and human dignity and human respect, even when you can't say it and understand it in language. Just the power of it is real. And when you see people like your own kid will hug you and say, "Daddy," and you know what it means when they hug you and you hug them and tell them you love them. I had similar with the 10-year-old when they was watching the television, and she had this expression on her face, and I didn't know what was wrong with her. And she was just looking, and then she just crawled over and just gave me the biggest hug with a tear stain coming out of her eyes. And I didn't know what she said, but I felt what she said. And I knew she said she loved me. And we got an interpreter to come and interpret to verify that. But it was already confirmed by the power of what was the atmosphere itself. I knew what was being said. So I saw how much we have in common as people, no matter where we were, or where we are, or no matter, we have to embrace the wholeness of humanity. And when we do, we won't really do that unless we be able to see the humanity in each other. So that was my first real education in culture and understanding that we were there to defend them. So often it bothers me even today when I hear about issues of Korea, just like it bothers me if I hear America being threatened. When you understand that these are people that I hope someday will find a bridge to end their conflict in North and South Korea, because these are two families, have families on both sides of the DMZ that probably need to see each other. And we're not the only people who want freedom. We're not the only people who need freedom or deserve it. All people, I believe, have a cry for human decency and human respect. And I think that my experience there allowed me to come in touch with so many different cultures, that culture anyway, to allow me to see, wow, we really have to do better as a people, you know.
Yeah, that's I don't know how to follow that up. That's great. I love that. That's that's very impassioned answer, and I agree. I mean, yeah, just the more you spend time with people from other parts of the world, the more it's people are people.
Yeah. And then sit in that living room, and here was a guy with a soldier, American soldier, sitting up left side of a Korean soldier. You know, he was a nice gentleman, a respectful gentleman, allowed me in his home, got exposed to that know his wife, that know his children, and for him to trust me with his children. He saw enough in me to say, that's fine. He knew that the kids would be fine. He was only 10 and 7 years old with me in South Korea. And I'll never forget that level of trust. And I always vowed to never betray people when they trust you. Yeah, never betray that trust, nothing. So even when there was a question about whether they were ever trying to get money out of me, and that was proven to be, we offered money, they never wanted it. They was just wanting, they just realized that you was somebody special. I was special, they were special to me. It was kind of like kind of something destined to happen, because it was just waiting there for me. I thought it was just interesting that I had that experience. But it has shaped my life, even coming back to this country. Allowed me to get back, come home. After I came back home, I left there and went to Ft Hood. But the memory of South Korea lingers with me, and I probably could talk about South Korea forever. Most of the things that happened there, I know I would never forget in my entire lifetime, because those kids' names are just aged in my heart, and I never forget them. As like your own kids' name, they feel like they're my kids in so many ways. I often wonder where they are, what they're doing. Kind of try to evaluate what their age would be like now, probably about in their late 40s, mid 40s. Show you how much time has passed.
They probably have kids of their own now.
Yeah. Huh?
They probably have kids of their own now.
Yeah, probably got kids of their own, and yeah, it would be interesting I wouldn't know what I recognize, but they'll recognize me, but it was certainly probably the highlight of my military experience.
Yeah.
Yes.
What was your time at Ft Hood like?
Say again?
What was your time at Ft Hood like?
My Ft Hood experiences, well, I had gotten to the point where I was looking forward to getting out. Korea was my, I guess you'd call it, I don't know, it just did something to me. There was nothing else I could learn more meaningful to me. But in Ft Hood, getting ready to make decisions, going there, before I went there, I went home. My mother was still, my mother was home, and I knew that I wanted to get, my mother was a little bit tired of seeing her son get on planes and leave. And I think when I left to go to Fort Hood, I could see the tears on her face, and I says, I'm gonna get out. I don't want my mom worried about me and things of that nature. I think that when I there in Fort Hood, I began to be more getting ready to become a family man, or getting ready to think about marriage and think about settling down. So I had some good experiences as a soldier as well. I maintained my ministry there as well. I jumped back into the chaplain's assistant role. Went there, and they automatically thought that I'd be better. Looking at my background, they said, "Well, we're going to assign you to the chaplain." And I was there with the chaplain there the whole time that I was there in Fort Hood. I actually picked up a third MOS there. I picked up a legal specialist duty.
A lot of MOSs for a short amount of time.
Yeah, yeah. They started me out between the chaplains and the command, headquarters. And they needed a chaplain. I mean, they needed a legal specialist, and that is a gift. It's amazing how that happened. We'll try to brief through this one. What really caused them to want me there as a not chaplain assist, but a legal specialist. We had a situation where there was a young man who went AWOL, and they wanted to discipline him for going AWOL, and they was getting ready to apply UCMJ actions and kick him out of the military. And I saw some things that I didn't like when it come down to how he was handled. He was a white soldier, matter of fact. The majority of the unit was black. The commander was black. The lieutenant was black. The commander was black. So we had a majority. I would say the majority of the soldiers in that particular unit was black. So when you say the authority, it was mostly, But this particular soldier, he was young, private. He looked like he had a lot of emotional problems. Didn't come to the formation on time. His uniform was never. So they would harass him quite a bit when he come out in the formation. He's sitting him out in front of the formation, and as an example of how not to look when you come to formation. So I didn't like that, and I saw it how it affected him emotionally. I didn't know why he was always not ready and not about his, But anyway, he had some trouble. So one day he just asked me would I help him because he was going to be court-martialed. And he said, "You seem like you're a fair guy, and I need your help." And asked me would I help him. And so I was faced suddenly with a challenge. Would I step outside of the perimeter of being comfortable with my black kind of fellow soldiers who were in command? And I don't know why. I wouldn't say they harassed him because of his color, but they harassed him for whatever the reason was, maybe just because of the way he carried himself. So I talked to him about that, about doing better in that respect. And I didn't understand why he went AWOL. He went AWOL because he was being harassed and he couldn't adjust. So I said, well, if I help you, you do something for yourself, and you got to promise to do better. And if you need help with getting your uniform ready, I'm pretty sure someone will be, that's better than I am that can help you in that area if you want it. But would I go to the hearing for you? Yes, I will. So I took the route of Dr. King said, if you don't stand for something, you fall for anything, and the right time, and it's always the right thing. It's always right to do what is right, no matter what time you're in. The time is always right. That's what he said. The time is always right to do what is right. So I thought it was right to go and stand for the gentleman. And so I did that, and while I was there in Fort Hood, and had to go before a hearing. So after the hearing, to make a long story short, I went back to my unit. But before I got back to the unit, in the hearing, I just told them that, hey, this guy was harassed. I'm not justifying AWOL. He did do that. He didn't always dress the best, but he was harassed by his. And so they asked me, was it just his commander? I said, everybody. His commander, his platoon sergeant, his platoon leader. And I understand that at the time I was a platoon sergeant, platoon leader. And so therefore this was going to bring me in crosshairs with them because I'm testifying on this young man's behalf. And I won't say we were friends at all, because that was the first time we had any kind of collaboration with each other. So by the time I got back from the hearing and went back to my unit, keep in mind at the same time they had a position open for the for legal clerk. They required honesty and integrity. So when I got back to the unit, I was told to pack my bags. I was being moved from Charlie Company to Headquarters Company, which means I didn't have to go out into field trainings no more. So I didn't know why. So my duties the next day was to go to headquarters, and I was given a desk to sit at this desk, and still don't know why. And so the first day, the middle of the first day, there was a office door came open. There was a full blood colonel sitting inside. And when they opened the door, they says, Specialist Howard, can you come inside? And I went inside. He says, stand at ease. He says, you probably want to know why have you been moved to headquarters? I said, absolutely, I don't know why. He said, well, I knew, first of all, you're going to get a lot of harassment for the courage you took for another soldier. So we have a position open here, and we need a man that take care of the legal issues that comes up, and we're going to train you to do that. And if you're interested in it, but because you did that, we don't think that you'll be in a safe place with your unit. You might, we don't really want nothing to happen to you, so we just kind of took the initiative to make sure that you're in a safe place. So we took you and put you in headquarters, and what do you think? I said, you probably did the right thing. So that's how I ended up becoming a legal clerk. And I started training for that for a few months for my remaining time there in Fort Hood. And I left there in the headquarters company. So that was my experience there. It was an amazing one, but that was my highlight of Fort Hood.
How did you like that work, the legal specialist work?
It was a learning. Being able to put words together. I had to think and how to say a thing and how to write what to say it based upon things that happened. So when a commander or either a sergeant from another company wanted to discipline a soldier, they had to tell me they had to find something within the UCMJ to discipline them with. They have to have violated something within the UCMJ, and there's certain code that you have to use and stuff like that, certain laws, as we would call them, statutes that they were to use. And so I learned how to proofread them and make sure that they have the date, when it happened, where it happened, or what the 5 questions: where, who, what, when, where, how, and why. I have to be all enclosed in the statements. So I learned how to read those statements to see whether they stand up in court or not. So being a legal specialist was something definitely something new, but insightful. There were times when there was an attempt to do that to a soldier, and the soldier really hadn't violated anything within the UCMJ. So a lot of times, so what had to happen, everything had to be forwarded to headquarters and approved by headquarters, or either sent back to the commander that was initiating the discipline. So I enjoyed even in being in that position to be contacted by captains When they wanted to discipline a soldier, they had to go through me.
Mm.
Even though I wasn't a commander, I was just a specialist for. They had to still go through me to discipline a soldier.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, and I enjoyed
the
that.
expertise.
Yeah, I liked that. You know, I said, Captain, that ain't right. You can't do it. It ain't gonna fly. You know what I'm saying? If it did, we put together, make sure that the Article 15, as we call it, make sure that it was properly written, so that it will stand up in court. And sometimes soldiers lost money, they lost promotion. I mean, lost rank. Sometimes they was court-martialed and disciplined and put out of the military based upon what the article was about. And it never really made me an enemy to anyone in the military, in my peers, because I don't think they really knew who was actually making those decisions. Because I didn't talk directly to the person who violated the rule, I talked more or less to the commander of the soldier, the commander who brought the article against the soldier. So I enjoyed being in the position that I was in.
Well, and it seems like the knowledge would be so useful. And I know you were toward the end of your active duty time, but you stayed in the reserves for a while after this. So I imagine that knowledge would have been very helpful.
Yeah.
No matter what you're doing in the military.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. When I got out, I decided to get married and have a family. But I joined the Army Reserve here in Tallahassee. It was called the 400th MPPW camp. And so I again became a chaplain's assistant there with the 400th MP company here in Tallahassee. And for 13 years, from 1982 to 1991. So, yeah, so all of the experiences I had in the military, active Army, was prepared me for various careers, and I think especially the job that I have now as a regulatory specialist, it had helped me in this professional line of work that I do now. I have been in a position of management since I've been with the Division of Elections, so certainly that was instrumental in developing me. I did several things after I got out of the Army. Worked as a corrections officer, worked as a communications officer for the Quincy Police Department, worked as a security guard in for many companies, and public safety officer for then Tallahassee Community College, and now 8 years with the Florida Division of Elections. So yes, I think my military career was more educational than school. I got my greatest education in the military.
What are some things that if you can kind of expand on that a little bit, what are some things that you felt stood out as experiences in the military that really affected your approach to later work, either your work now at Division of Elections or some of your other jobs that you've had over the years?
Give me one part of that question one more time.
Sure. Yeah. What just can you expand on that a little bit? A couple specific things that you felt came from the military that enhanced your professional life.
Well, one of the things about your professional life, that I find very important is your appearance. I believe the military.
I just like suit when you came in.
Was always about how you look. You are your best representation of yourself. So I believe I developed that knowledge and understanding. It was an honor to wear the uniform in a foreign land. You got American United States flag in another country. You represent your country, but you also represent yourself. You have to put yourself first in some capacities, not always, but sometimes you have to understand that you are your own best representative. and no one could represent you as you can. So I learned to always to dress appropriately for the occasion. So as a soldier, I wanted to make sure that my uniform looked better than anybody else, without comparing nobody, but I wanted to make sure I was the best me. My shoes is the best that I could prepare. My creases in my uniform was the best that I could do. Um, my mother used to always says, if you're going to do a thing, do it right. If you're not going to do it right, don't do it at all. So I want to always that part of me would develop in the military and enhance my coming out of the military. And so whatever job I had neat clothes. Even I got a job as a dishwasher one time, and I had creases in my uniform as a dishwasher. I had patent leather shoes, and they were shy. They couldn't understand a man standing back in the kitchen cleaning dishes and cleaning out trays and not getting his clothes dirty, because I developed that skill of the importance of having a neat and clean appearance at all times. So then it developed my understanding of being prompt. If you're supposed to be somewhere, you need to be there. You need to be there on time. So that carried over into my civilian life. When I joined the civilian world again, getting jobs, I believed in being on time where you're supposed to be, and always looked the part for what the job calls for. So now I work for the Division of Elections. Where I went from the uniform of a soldier to uniform as a corrections officer, uniform as a police dispatcher, uniform as a private security officer, and now I'm back into my regular civilian clothes. But I maintained that idea of representing yourself, look the part, and sometimes you answer more questions about your appearance. Any questions that people have about you will be answered even the way you present yourself. So a lot of that was developed in the military. It enhances my life even today, you know. So I can accredit that the military life to where I learned teamwork. When I was in the military, we learned how important every person was on the team, and that every soldier was important, and that you had to discover the weaknesses and strengths of each person, and but not be satisfied with the weaknesses of a soldier, but strengthen that part of the soldier, because in the battlefield of life, in the battlefield, you need all hands on deck, and you need them all to be functioning at 100%. In if we ever got into a real conflict, you know. So I carried that with me, not seeing myself as the sole aspect of a team. There, you know, you could have, like in football, you can have a lot of superstars, but you don't win by having a lot of superstars. You win because you have a team, and when the team concept is understood, that we are more effective when the team understand their team responsibilities. You may have a bunch of superstars that can't work together. You can have just a bunch of players, a football player, a team that functions together, and you'll have a Super Bowl getting ready to be made. So I carry that idea even today. We had many operations we had to go through and train for, and we got excellent scores, not because some one guy was good and this two guys was good. We had a whole team that did their role. One had to load the gunner. And one had to pull the trigger. Everybody can't pull the trigger, but somebody had to make it possible for the trigger to need to be pulled. Or, everybody had to do their role job. They had to have a driver. We had to have someone to make sure that the gun is loaded, and everybody had to pull their role. We had to make sure our communication systems work. So we have a team that's working to make sure that we as a squad function together. So even with my management as a supervisor in elections, I carry those same philosophies. We know greater than the weakest link amongst us. So, so definitely, with being a team and being prompt and being personally accountable for yourself and taking personal responsibility for your own selves. Never blaming anyone for your shortcomings. You have to have initiative to get what you want and to learn what you want to learn. But no one can teach a person who's not willing to learn. So I was willing to learn. And then as I learned, I was, as my Angelo would say, he that learns teaches, is he that gets gives. So I believe in the more knowledge that you acquire, you become the greater teacher of those around you. So I kind of carried a lot of those things from the military into my civilian life. Made me not only a better man in employment, but a better father, a better man, a better citizen. So I do believe that military life enhanced the idea of what it means a good statesman, a good citizen, and a good public servant. So I believe it all. I believe that the military enhanced that.
So you're still serving. That's how you look at it.
Still serving.
God, I love that answer. It was so good.
Still serving.
I love it.
Military will develop the man in you.
Yeah, that's awesome. I do want to go back to a little bit kind of chronologically here, because I'm thinking about this is something that's kind of important to me, because I my background is National Guard, and so I think a lot about the military and civilian kind of simultaneously. And I wonder for you, people talk a lot about the transition from military to civilian life, but then you've got the additional component. You're transitioning from military to civilian life to also maintaining military life in the reserve. And I wonder if you can just talk a little bit about your thoughts on how your continued career in the reserve was compared to your time in active duty, how it was to balance that with your civilian life, and then of course going into Desert Storm. When that happened, you're still serving. So I wonder if you can talk a little bit about that side of your military career.
Okay, well, the reserve, naturally is not full time. You only go in there once a month, one weekend out of a month, and then going back to your civilian job the remaining of the month, and balancing that. I got married in the year 1982, the very same year I got out of the military. And so the first 2 years of marriage, I'm now father of 2 beautiful girls. As a matter of fact, my first daughter was born while I was on active duty. We have what they call annual training every year, where you have 2 weeks of annual training and you have to take a trip. And so I've always had a job that was understanding about that military leave. And I was working, I remember once I was working for the sheriff department, and which was always very respectful to the military reservists. So I was stationed in a place called Fort Indiantown Gap, Pennsylvania. That was our training place there. And I learned in the formation there that I was the father of a brand new girl, baby girl. They got the call, and they decided to announce it in the formation. So during that announcement, the commander says, Specialist Howard, congratulations. And so everybody gave me applauded. And so he asked one of the sergeants to take his hat off. And the sergeant took his hat off and says, hey, I don't want nothing in this hat but quarters. So I want every quarter, if you got a quarter in your pocket, I want it in this hat. And so Sergeant Howard is going to need those quarters. You're going to spend next few hours over the phone. So don't be arguing over the phone when I dismiss you. So I got a chance to call my wife at that time, and got she was good. She had taken herself to the hospital, drove herself to the ER and had the baby within minutes after she arrived. And so we had a good talk, and I got a chance to hear the baby cry for the first time over the phone. So we had to decide, now you're going to go back home? Are you going to go home in your training? And my wife would say, no, go ahead and finish it because we need the money.
The baby.
We need some money. And so she said, I'm fine. I'm at her mother. She was at her mother's house. So that was Daria Raquel. That's my daughter. That's my first child, Daria. Daria Raquel Howard was born on August the 10th, 1983. So I'm really excited about that, and came home and saw 2 weeks after she was born. So now juggling, now being dad, husband, and you know, of a little girl while I was in the military, really interested, and I kind of wished I did think in terms of that maybe I should have just married and carried them in the active army and let them be so military brats, and because I thought the world of them and I thought they deserved the best of everything. And but that didn't happen. So I eventually got a chance to bring them over to the military unit, and there I met before Desert Storm. I met the Governor Childs, and so that was a good experience of meeting him. And by that time I had 3 kids. So my second child was born a year later. Derica was born August the 14th of 1984. And that was all same months, but different following years.
A couple of days apart.
Yeah, just a couple of days apart. And so then we skipped a year. 1985. But then we have our first son was born July the 9th of 1986. So now we have 3 kids. So when we were called to active duty for Operation Desert Storm, I had 3, and we were stationed initially at Fort Stewart, Georgia, before we went to Saudi Arabia. Operation got engaged in Operation Desert Storm, I believe it was. So yeah, so being able to function and as a civilian and a soldier on the weekends was quite interesting. You know, wearing a uniform here as a civilian, driving back, wearing a uniform, got a lot of pride there with the uniform on, knowing that you will be called to active duty at a given time. So, so you get a little bit of the joy of both worlds, a little of the military world on the weekend. One of the things the military yet was able to do is bring you into other environments. You get a chance to travel. Most of our annual training took us to different locations. I've gone into Fort Indiantown Gap, Pennsylvania, places that had strange names. That was the strangest name for a base, Fort Indiantown Gap. Fort McCoy, Wisconsin. And those are the 2 that sticks out the most. I can't remember too many other places that we went for annual training. I remember those 2 places the most. And my kids, you know, they liked the idea of me being a soldier. I think they did. Being able to sit them on my leg and talk to them about different things. They knew the story of the Korean experience. That's the one they enjoy hearing it. They want to know, where are they? How are they? You know, So, being a father really was I think that's the greatest honor I think I've ever, out of all the honors that I've ever had, being called dad was probably the greatest, the greatest honor that's bestowed upon me, even when I thought that being a soldier was, and having, the respect of being a soldier, but being a dad was just amazing. So, yes, sir. So, uh, balance, being able to jump to civilian. I don't know whether I was jumping back and forth. I don't believe I was jumping back and forth to mindsets, because they were all the same, maintaining the same mindset. Um, I think that one of the conflicting civilian experiences was more or less working in the prison system for a number of years, and then working in the civilian world and just regular life. And sometimes you take a correctional mindset and approach, which is more demeaning, not demeaning, but more authoritarian over those the supervised, and learning how not to be how how you are over inmates. You don't want to talk to as a security officer. You can't talk to the regular private citizens as a citizen as though they're inmates. You have to change roles, change mindsets. And sometimes we use the same words that we use in the military when we talk to people in the civilian world. We say, "Carry on, soldier." So sometimes we use the same expressions to people who in the civilian, dismiss. We would say that some terminologies in the civilian world, as they were used in the military, that was used towards us. And so a lot of carryover terminologies, a lot of lifestyle that was intertwined as a civilian, while you're still living as a civilian and as you're living as a soldier all at the same time. It was a kind of a unique place to have some mixture of civilian life and military all at the same time. Yeah. That's what I kind of saw in the military as a reservist.
What was it like being back on active duty, I guess, for a year? And what were you doing in Saudi Arabia, kind of on a day-to-day?
One of the things that didn't happen, I didn't actually go into the country of Saudi Arabia. Our unit did. Our unit was deployed from Tallahassee to Fort Stewart. I became ill before the deployment. I had an ulcer issue. I developed some type of ulcer in my stomach, and they pulled my orders and would not allow me to leave. One day before going into Saudi Arabia.
Oh, that's gotta be jarring.
Huh?
That's gotta be jarring.
Yeah. A little bittersweet. There was a lot of talk about the use of nuclear, not nuclear, all types of gas, things that soldiers would be subjected to. There's a lot of fear, a lot of nervousness being deployed. But I had to stay there until the exercise was over. We had other duties there in Fort Stewart, that we had to maintain there at Fort. I had the privilege of having my family to come periodically to visit me on Fort Stewart.
That was nice.
That was good, and my income group was pretty good, because now that I'm working for the sheriff department as a civilian, I was earning those salaries every month. The money never stopped, so that they couldn't just take you off the payroll while you was away. So I was earning around $800 plus a month, plus whatever I was making in the military. So I got two of both worlds,
Hey, you got advantage of that.
Yeah, so I liked that part of making money on both. I was always on the clock with the sheriff department, and so So, and being able to every now and then have my family come up on the weekend, or me leave and go home for the weekend for that matter. But we stayed connected to what was happening in the war, in the conflict and things of that nature. And we were very close to soldiers. Soldiers were very somewhat like family. The soldiers that were allowed to go into to be deployed overseas, and some of those soldiers who weren't, I was one of those that weren't. And when they came back, they was excited to be back. The soldiers will be back, and as the years passed, there was certain ailments that many of the soldiers acquired while they was away, and we've lost a few soldiers over the years due to the experience, what their exposures to some type, I forgot what to call it, some type of pits they used to call it. I don't know what to call it. What pits they had been exposed to, but
the burn pits.
Burn pits, yeah. And the many exposures to the burn pits, and then soldiers that were exposed to other agents developed a lot of different conditions like cancer and everything else. We lost a few soldiers after they came back, and we salute them who made a real sacrifice to fight and defend, to protect our country, and when they feel that it was threatened. So we certainly I've seen a lot of good soldier friends who pass away over the years, and we've all maintained some type of network where we kind of maintain some type of communication with each other. So it was after Desert Storm that I knew that it was time to get out. And once the exercise was over and we was able to be released and go home, and we were discharged from Fort Stewart, and back home and stationed here in Tallahassee, I ended my military career. But it was a good, there were good years and a lot to be gained from it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're part of any veterans organizations today?
I thought about joining them, but just never really found the right one that I wanted to be part of. But I've considered volunteering at some point with the VOA, Volunteers of America, is an organization that deals with homeless veterans and providing various basic needs for veterans with certain things like medical care, helping them get to that medical care, providing the various needed assistance to them when they're experiencing homelessness and things of that nature. But I never really joined any of the VA organizations, no, sir.
To kind of, I guess, look back a little bit, if you were to offer counsel to a young person who's considering what they want to do next in their life, maybe they're thinking about the military, or maybe they're not thinking about the military, but what kind of advice would you give a young person, looking at what's ahead?
Just a young person, period?
Yeah. Somebody who is considering the military, or maybe they think the military is not for them.
Right. Right.
Kind of keep it open.
Right. My first, if a young person is considering the military, make sure if they have been raised up by both mom and dad, regardless of whether their mom and dad is separated, there's some respectable communication between them and their father. them and their mom, make sure they sit down and have an honest conversation with them concerning this consideration. Because one thing I learned in the military, that my mother always says she worries about us no matter what we decide to do with our lives, but we can't tell them when not to worry. So I would tell young people, don't ever leave your parents hanging and assuming that they don't need to worry about you because you're 18 or 19, or that you're grown and that you can make your own decisions. You got to always remember that you're your parents' children, and then you'll always be that, whether you're 40 or 50, it has nothing to do with just your age, but that the world is very big and they don't want to lose their kids in it. So get the comfort of your parents about your choice, and be sure of your choice, to make sure that this is what you want to do. Look at the pros and the cons. Don't let a recruiter just isolate you and he become your best friend and over your parents and over any other sound advice. So you want nothing wrong with communicating with a recruiter, but get all the information, carry your parents with you to the recruiting station, or someone that is a grandparent or grandfather, someone that's going to be honest with you about your choices, but never just jump into the military ill-advised, just because you want to make money, or just because it looks good on paper, because commercials and advertisement all look beautiful. They look glamorous, but you have to be ready for the tough challenges that you're going to face as a human being. I've seen many soldiers fall apart, and the military doesn't do well for every person. Some people commit suicide while they're in the military. They become excessive drinkers because they can't adapt to the military life. So just because your friend or your classmate had success, it don't mean that will be your story. But get good advice, get good directions, because this is your life. This could be the beginning of the rest of it. So developing and trying to make adult-like decisions, it doesn't make it less adult don't make you a lesser of an adult when you seek advice. Get good insight and someone feel of what you're deciding to do. Then even if you decide the military, you want to decide which branch that you want to go into, which one catches your interest the most. Take evaluation of each one. Army, Air Force, Navy, and the Marines are probably good options, but you need to take a feel of what they all are like. So therefore, this decision to join the military shouldn't be haste. It should be thoroughly investigated and considered. And then your other options, joining the work market, going to college. If you can consider going to college and military, you can use the military to enhance college opportunities. But if you're a person of faith, by all means, pray and rely on your faith. Get counsel from your spiritual leaders. That's one area that I think is very important, who have your best interests at heart. So seeking good counsel and good advice, because going into the military is a huge step. It can be the make and break of a human being, or a young man or a young lady for that matter. You want to consider all of the sacrifices that a soldier makes. He ends his life as a civilian. He gives himself to the military. And it's not like any other job that you could just say, I don't want to stay, I want to go home. And when you get a job and says, hey, I don't want this job anymore, and you could just tell the man and say, I'll give you a 3-day notice and 2 weeks notice. And military is not such, So one of the biggest decisions you can make is join the United States military. You are there to serve at discretion of the President of the United States. And so you have to understand the gravity of your choice. And the deeper that gravity is, it requires even more so good counsel and uh, your doctors may be a point of contact, because there's a lot of physical uh, things that you're going to have to be able to endure. How are you mentally, emotionally? Are you stable? Or you're kind of, titillating on this side of the use of drug abuse or alcohol abuse? You need to address those things and be honest with yourself. Is the military the best fit for you? And just because the military might not be a good fit for you, there's other things that you could do besides. One of the things that, and when I went in, we were led to believe you couldn't be successful if you didn't join the military, which is untrue. There are many successful men and women who didn't join the military. And you can find success outside of the military as you can in the military. But if I was an advocate for the military, I'd be trying to get you to join the military, which a recruiter would do. But you want soldiers who are ready for it, and you want to who have thought about it and not make out-of-pocket decisions, just quick decisions, unadvised decisions. I wouldn't advise any young man, a young woman, not to seek good advice. And then if you decide to join the military, look at your family structure. What do you want to obtain during the first year or the second year in the military? Set some goals. What do you want to get out of it? What do you want to achieve in your first contract? You may have a 3-year contract. You may have a 4-year contract. You may have a 6-year contract. What do you want to achieve out of it? If you have economic goals, most young men go into the military, doesn't have bills, doesn't have rent, doesn't have car notes and things of that nature. So what you want to do is make sure that you create a savings plan and a way to discipline yourself toward maintaining your savings plan. Because if you're going to only have a 4-year contract and you're only going to be in there 4 years, you want to get something out of it. You want to go in as broke as you want to come out as broke as you did when you went in. So you want to carefully strategically make plans as to what do you want to accomplish while you're in. Do you want to go to school while you're there? You can do that under certain GI bills. You're allowed to go to school as well as be a soldier all at the same time. You can be both getting an education and maintaining a career. And that opportunity is the last thing I'm going to say, because many soldiers decide to make a career out of the military. And they get so adapted to the military life, they don't want to get out of the military. That's possible. End up marrying, getting a wife while you're in the military, and you become your military family. That's a possibility. But think in terms of possibility. Is your military venture going to be temporary, maybe 1 or 2 years, or is it going to be a lifetime endeavor, career endeavor, to where you can retire? Think about how you're going to save and what kind of home you want to have and the way you want to have that home. So don't waste. If you're a young man, I would tell any young man, you don't want to waste your life partying, going to parties and celebrating and spending money, because it's a good way of wasting life and time and valuable time. You won't be young forever, I went into the Army at 19 years of age, and today I'm 66 years old. I never would have thought that I would be talking about saying that, 66. I'm 3 times my age that I was when I went in the military. But as many times a young man would think that I'll always be young, and you can't see yourself getting old or getting aging, but it'll happen. But you prepare for your old age when you're young. You don't wait till you get old to prepare for old age. You prepare for old age when you're young. So everything that you do in your young life, whether you go into the military, whether you're in the civilian life, whether you go to college, you're preparing for the days that you would not when you get older, and you won't have the opportunities that you have when you're young. So your youthfulness, your young life is the very most, I would say, the most important part of your life, because it's like the foundation that you'll stand on for the rest of your life. So however stable that foundation is, that's going to determine your longevity in life. Well, so whether you'll be able to survive in your senior years, those are decisions are made when you're young. You're building the framework or the foundation you're going to live on for the rest of your life. So my advice to young people that are considering military is to think of it from a long-term perspective, because you're building a platform that you're going to live on for the rest of your life. So it's not something that you can say, hey, I'm going to just do it, whatever. I'm mad with mama, mad with daddy, can't get along with the other siblings, and you can't make a haphazard decision without good advice. You got to have your head on right when you want to go into the military. Remember, you're carrying a weapon. You're going to be carrying a weapon. You're going to be operating millions of dollars worth of equipment is going to be entrusted in you. So you need a level head, you know. You need a good level head and a good focus as to why you want to serve this United States military, and how you think that your life will enhance it, and how it can enhance your life. So you definitely want to you want to have some careful thought about building and preparing and planning for the rest of your life.
Well, that's well said, and uh, good advice, I think, for a young audience. Is there anything in this interview that we have not covered that you wanted to say?
No, I don't think so. I think you covered every base. I really do. I really enjoyed it, and you allowed me to go back and to relive a lot of it. And this is one conversation that I didn't know was coming, but it's a conversation I like to have. But even to have it on camera was even more exciting. But that somebody has it on film or on the record is amazing, and I'm thanking you for this opportunity coming around. But I think that you asked all the right questions. This was a good experience for me. I'm hoping that whoever listens to it is blessed from it. I'll get some insight about their decision making to serve the country. I don't believe that there's no greater honor than you will ever have on you than to serve your country, represent it. If you do represent it well, because you represent yourself and an entire nation. So you serve with honor, and serve with dignity, serve with pride and respect. It'll all come back to you, because I've gotten so much as a result of serving in the military. I've gotten so much respect. Good things have come to me, and I think it was all because of the way the military developed me character-wise. It opened doors, even when doors are closed. There's a certain way you need to know how to handle rejection.
Mm.
Military teaches you that it doesn't go your way all the time, and you can't throw tantrums when things doesn't go the way that you
Sometimes you
want
lose.
this. Yeah. So
That's-
so you learn to say no. You learn how to handle no. You learn how to handle things, disappointments. You learn how to not to think that you're the man on the top of the hill, and that you rule, because there's somebody that's got some rule and authority over you, and so you have to respect that. So
yeah.
you learn a lot in the Army. You learn a lot in military service. It develops you in character. It develops your character and respect for other people.
Well, that's well said, and I've really enjoyed this interview as well.
Yes.
There's been a lot of moments that were really, really special in this one, and so I thank you for your time as well today, and thank you for your service, both in the military and your continued public service as well.
Yes, sir.
Uh,
Thank you, sir.